What better way to start with a giant, huge picture of my face? So before we get started and we talk about how to architect and back up AWS solutions, I want to give a quick introduction to myself. So I've actually spent 15 years in cloud solutions. Most recently, in my last two organizations, I was VP of products, always focused on cloud, even before we even called it cloud or IaaS or anything like that. My joke to people is I'm actually a pilot because I wanted to get even closer to clouds, which is really funny because clouds are kind of scary for pilots, so for VFR pilots. So just a couple background pieces about me. Diving into Veeam for a second, and I'm not going to talk a whole lot about Veeam because what I want to do is really give the time to Imran to talk about what they've been able to do for one of their customers. But there are three things that Veeam can help with. The first is if you're a current Veeam customer, one of our 284,000 customers, or one of the 4,000 new customers that we're adding every month, and you're on-prem, you have the ability to take those backups and leverage the highly durable, 11 nines of durability, long-term, low-cost archival storage of AWS. And we help customers with that every day, multiple customers every day. The second thing, and we're going to spend the bulk of our time today talking about this, is we can help make EC2 backups easier to manage. And there's two ways that we can do that. We can do that either with our Veeam native VBR product, Veeam Backup and Replication, or through our new acquisition a few months ago with N2W, we can help you with that as well. And Imran's going to dive really far into that. But I just want to spend about 3 or 4 minutes today talking about VMware Cloud and AWS. Because Veeam is one of the only backup solutions for VMware Cloud and AWS. And this is one of the most exciting kind of things that are happening. It really allows customers that are on-prem and have not yet built their applications to take advantage of the services that AWS offers. It really allows this migration. And this migration, this transformation to the cloud, is really where Veeam can help you. So obviously we do backups on it, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But where we can help is with replication. And so I'd like to tell this life cycle story where an end user has Veeam and VMware on-premise and starts replicating to VMware Cloud and AWS in any region that they so choose. So the VMC is how I'm going to refer to it because VMware Cloud and AWS is a lot to say and every single time I say it. If you're replicating to VMC, you can now pick whatever region you want that DR site to live in. The nice thing about this is we get a chance to take advantage of the cloud to not have full site level recovery, but we can do that in a way that is completely non-invasive. We're not buying any new Veeam licenses. We're not buying anything new. We can just replicate over. And then as that IT equipment that's already in your data center, already paid off, starts to depreciate, at some point in time, it's no longer going to be good enough to run your production workloads. So we'll take advantage of the brand new, latest generation hardware that's running in VMC, and we're going to swap over. And production is now going to live inside of VMC, and your DR will live on those assets. And what works so great about this is now you're extending the lifespan from maybe 3 or 4 years to maybe 6 or 7 years. And so what you're able to do is kind of go to your boss and say, hey, I can transition us to the cloud and extend the lifetime value of these assets. But then as those assets depreciate, now we have an opportunity to swing that DR site to another region. So we can do cross-region, cross-account replication. So now you can have your stuff completely within the cloud. All the while, obviously you're using Veeam to back up because it's highly important that even though you're in the cloud, this is no different than AWS's shared responsibility model. It's highly important that those are continue to be backed up. And obviously we can help with that. So really this is, what I think is so interesting about this isn't me up there saying, hey, you guys need more Veeam. This is me saying you leverage the stuff you've already bought to help make this transition. And once you've made that transition, once your production apps are running inside of VMC, this is a great opportunity to modernize those applications. So really exciting opportunities for things that Veeam can help you with. But for now, I'd love to hand it over to Imran and have him chat about how Lancom has helped.
Great. Thank you, Jordan. I'll just start off by introducing myself. So my name is Imran Sadiq. I'm a software engineering graduate, and have 14 years of experience in SMB market providing technical solutions. So currently working on some SaaS products and using the lean startup methodology. This photo that you see over here is actually from re:Invent 2015 on the Harley Davidson ride that they have. So if any of you ever have a chance to do that, I would highly recommend it. Really hot day, but a lot of fun. So Lancom and backups. I'll just give a bit of introduction on Lancom first, on what we are and what we do. So we are a managed services provider, and we have around 30 years of experience in the business. We do custom software development, and some of the software that we develop is being used by Fortune 500 companies. We also provide business automation and intelligence for our customers to really use the data and see how they can actually use the power of cloud to improve their productivity. And in the recent years, we've been developing SaaS products, and two of them over here is Desk Director and Time Sanity. And the whole point of this is to actually create these products and then spin them off in separate companies so they can live independently of the main company itself. So at Lancom, we have a saying that you cannot recover from no backups. So you can pretty much recover from everything else, but if you do not have any backups, you cannot recover from them. And hence the reason we are very religious about backups. We want to make sure all of our customers always have backups set up. We always have offsite replication for our clients, so either these clients are in the cloud or on-premise, we always make sure their data and the backup is actually replicated offsite. We also have multiple levels of checks for those backups, so it's not just the main engineers who are looking after the backup do the checks, but we also have senior engineers who go through that work to make sure the actual backups are happening. The question normally people ask is, if I'm in the cloud or in AWS, why do I need to do backups? I mean, AWS itself is very highly resilient and available, so why do you need to actually do backups for your workloads that you're running in AWS? And there could be a few reasons for that. One is human errors, right? So your users could override the data or accidentally delete some of it, so you need to actually have a backup that you can go back to. It could be ransomware attacks or malware where your data is encrypted now or your data is actually destroyed. So how do you actually go back and recover that data? So for that, you need backups. Could be an EBS volume failure for your instance, and that could be because of the corruption of the operating system, or it could be underlying hardware failure. Again, you need to have backups to actually recover from that. Could be an AZ failure. I'm not sure if any of you remember, in Sydney there was one of the data center failed a couple of years back, and that was mostly because of the flooding and power outages that happened in the region. So again, for that, you need to have some kind of backups available so you can recover all of your data. And for compliance reasons, most companies require some kind of compliance, and you need to retain your backups or retain your data for a certain number of years. So you need to have some kind of product or backups available for that. So just to give you a bit of information on how we came to be using CPM and AWS products. So back in 2014, when we started really using AWS and moving our workloads into AWS, we faced a few problems in terms of backing up our workloads. To name three of them, number one was how do we create crash-consistent backups? So these included Windows, Active Directory, and SQL Server based workloads, as well as Linux DB servers. I mean, for that, you really need to have a crash consistency available because they are based on a database technology. Second was, how do we provide a fast and efficient DR solution for our customers? And this needed to be cross-region as well, because the whole point of a DR is that if something happens to the one region, we have our backups and data available in another region, which could be stood up really quickly. And third was, how do we actually refresh our UAT and dev environments? And that included, how do we restore all of data from the production workloads into UAT and dev environments, which are running in a different AWS account itself. So back in 2014, we had a few options. One was do a manual EBS snapshots. I mean, AWS provides this great functionality of creating snapshots of your EBS volumes. But there are a couple of problems with that. Number one was it's very time consuming and very labor intensive if we had to do this manually. And again, it didn't really provide the crash consistency, so it didn't really solve our number one problem. Second was we could use Windows built-in backups, but with that we had a very long RTO if you wanted to recover from the backups. And they would have been very difficult to manage as well. And third option, I would have loved to have Lambda back then, but obviously it wasn't available, and even if it did, it didn't really provide the whole crash consistency for our Windows workloads. So the solution. So what we found, this amazing product called CPM from AWS, and we loved some things about the product that really got us using that. Number one was one-click deployment. I didn't really need to go to some website to download the software, create my machine, install it, and then configure the whole thing to manage it. It was available on AWS Marketplace from day one, so it was a one-click deployment into your account. Once it's spun up, you just go through the wizard, set it up, and you're done. Second was, it solved our number one problem of crash-consistent backups. That was pretty much the only product at that time which had the agent available for Windows workloads where you could actually set it up so that it would provide a crash consistency of your AD, SQL, and other databases, as well as it provided pre- and post-scripting, which you could do for your Linux environments so that all of your data is crash consistent. And the third thing, which I personally loved, was that it had very detailed technical documentation. So I didn't need to actually do a lot of research to set up all these agent-based backups or configure all the pre- and post scripts. So I love that. It's a typical setup of our AWS product on how we use it. So we have the AWS backup server running inside the private subnet. It uses the Amazon Web Services SDK and takes advantage of this great snapshot technology to back all that up into snapshots, as well as create AMIs using the Amazon Web Services SDK. And it also then has the ability to use the same SDK to transfer those AMIs and snapshots into a different region for DR purposes. So how are we using CPM currently at Lancom? If we use CPMs to back up our Windows and Linux workloads, we also use it for DR purposes, and we use that for UAT and dev refreshes. So we currently have hundreds of servers that we're running this onto. Actually, to back up those servers, we have multiple RDS instances that we back up, and we're running it across multiple AWS accounts. So today I wanted to give you guys some real-world examples of how we've been able to make use of this great product, not just talk about what it does. So recently we conducted a DR exercise for one of our clients, and it only took us 30 minutes to actually do a cross-region DR for the whole environment. And this is an incredible number considering you're restoring a lot of workloads into a different region. And the reason we could do that is that we had to set a few things up beforehand to make sure of that speedy DR. And mostly was around the VPC, so we tried to create VPCs beforehand. We kept the subnets the same, and individual workloads, if they're required to have the same IP addresses as well. We pre-allocated elastic IPs so that we didn't have to go on the day to actually get new ones. And we configured the DNS record so that as soon as those workloads were up and running, and the clients could actually use those pre-configured DNS records to start using that. We had another example of how we recovered EBS volumes. So one of our clients, a multinational client, they had an automated script which went through and accidentally overwrote all the IIS sites, and we had to actually recover the whole EBS volume. And it only took us 30 seconds to actually recover the whole volume. And the best thing about recovery using this product was it's not just about recovering the volume and then you have to go to actually workload, take the whole volume out, put the new one in. It actually allows you to automatically swap the old volume. So the time it takes for you to actually recover the whole volume is very, very short. So just a closer look at CPM, how it works. So this is the main screen for CPM backup monitor. Here you can see the progress of your backups and how they're being backed up. And as I mentioned before, that it uses the Amazon Web Services SDK to do all the functionality and backup and restore. You can actually see in the snapshots what it is actually backing up. Gives you the ID for the snapshots, and you can even actually delete those snapshots directly from the monitor itself. So you don't need to actually go digging into Amazon Web Services console to see what it is and how to clean that up. Also provides a really good log, what it is backing up, so you can see the AMRs it's doing using the product, and how you can actually use that. This is the policies and schedules screens I've put together. Allows you to create policies based on not just the servers or instances that you're trying to back up, but it also gives you the ability to actually use different AWS accounts if you have set up. It allows you to configure the generations that you want to save and multiple schedules. And the good thing about that is if you have a critical workload and you want to have multiple schedules for that, so it not only needs to back up, for example, weekly, but you would like it to be backed up every 2 hours. So you can actually do that. You can have multiple schedules set up for the same policy. And same with the schedules, you can actually have very granular levels of schedule setup. So you can say how often it needs to run, when it needs to expire, which days it needs to run. And it allows you the ability to actually be very configurable in terms of workloads that you're trying to back up. It's just a bit of instant recovery for your instances or volumes. Allows you to actually select the volumes that you're trying to restore, gives you the ability to actually change the volume type, increase the space if you wanted to, also IOPS, anything along those lines. But I love most about being a technical person is the ability to specify advanced options when you're recovering something using the product, which is great because what it does is provide you very, very granular options for each of the things that you're trying to recover. As you can see, it gives you the VPC that you want to recover to, it gives you the subnet IDs, allows you to configure the IP address for the workload, allows you to set up the elastic IP, the security groups. Anything that you do when you're actually creating an instance, you can specify in here to restore using the product itself. And you can even use your own AWS key if you wanted that to be used when you're recovering the instances itself. So some improvements by CPM and AWS. I mean, it gave us actual confidence to make sure that all of our workloads are configured for backups. We can actually go back to our clients and say, yes, all of your backups are done correctly, and also gives us the ability to do a DR solution for the customers. It has really great reporting built in, so you can actually see all the instances backing up and how it is backing up. As I mentioned before, that it uses Amazon Web Services underlying services to do most of the work. So for example, it uses SES to set up notifications, so you don't need to actually set up some third-party notification service along those lines. And it has a great API capability as well if you wanted to actually integrate that into some other backup monitoring tool for yourself. It has helped us save a lot of time. I can't really imagine using something else to back up all of our workloads in AWS. So if we had to use that EBS snapshots manually, or if we had some other way of backing things up, it would be taking a very long time. And as I mentioned before, because it uses the underlying Amazon Web Services SDK and the services, it is very, very reliable as Amazon Web Services services themselves are. So we can be very confident that it'll work and saves us a lot of time. Scalability, that's the other main benefit of having the product running. Using the Amazon Web Services SDK is that if you increase from, let's say, 10 workloads to 100 workloads, you don't need to spend a lot of time to scale your backup product. It has the ability to do that because it uses those underlying services. All you probably need to do is just increase the instance size for the AWS, and then you pretty much have everything configured. All right, with that, I'll hand it back over to Jordan to finish the presentation off. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Imran, thank you so much. I absolutely love hearing from partners because it's one thing to protect your data because you understand every aspect of it and it's entirely your responsibility. But when you're having to protect dozens, hundreds of customers and they're looking to you to protect their business and companies of all sizes, I think that's just the amount of responsibility that you take on is just fantastic. So hearing from a partner, I think is really exciting. So we're doing some really cool stuff at our booth today. Definitely, we're over in M11. I definitely encourage you to swing by, check it out. We have a really cool safe game. We gave out a bunch of prizes, drones, Bose headsets. I think we gave out like 10 prizes yesterday. So we got lots more over there. Swing by. If you're interested in trying CPN, it could not be simpler. It's built into the marketplace. It's a one-click deployment. And if you want to try it, not only are we giving it away free for a month, we're also giving you $250 promotional voucher. It can be used anywhere on any account just for trying it. That way, not only are you getting to try it for free, but even the resources of the EC2 instances are actually there as well. So we've got representatives from N2W there. We've got people from Veeam. We're definitely excited to talk to you about how we can help. And thank you so much for hanging out here with us today, and looking forward to for chatting with you guys more.